Herman Lehman was captured as a child by Native Americans. He lived first among the Apache and then the Comanche, but returned to his Euro-American birth family later in life. He published his autobiography, 9 Years Among the Indians, in 1927. Herman Lehman was born near Mason, Texas, on June 5, 1859, to German immigrants Ernest Moritz Lehman and Augusta Lehman. He was a third child, following a brother, Gustav Adolf, born in 1855, and sister Wilhelmina, born in 1857. They had another son, William, born in 1861. Augusta had 3 more daughters, Emmeline, Caroline, and Mathilde, but their birth order is unclear, as is their patronage. Moritz Lehman died in 1862, and Augusta remarried a local stonemason, Philip Buckmeyer, in 1863.
On May 16, 1870, Herman Lehman, a German immigrant's son barely 10 years old, was captured with his younger brother Willie by a band of Apaches, forever changing his life and that of his family. 5 days later, a patrol of buffalo soldiers led by Captain Roberts pursued the Apache group and after a fierce battle succeeded in rescuing his brother Willie, while Herman remained in the hands of the attackers.
On May 16, 1870, a raiding party of 8 to 10 Apaches captured Herman Lehman, who was almost 11, and his 8-year-old brother Willie while they were in the fields at their mother's request, scaring birds from the wheat. Their 2 sisters escaped without injury. 4 days later, the Apache raiding party encountered a patrol of 10 African American cavalrymen led by Sergeant Emmanuel Stantz, who had been sent from Fort McCavitt to recover the 2 Lehman boys. In the short battle that followed, Willie Lehman escaped, but the Apaches fled with young Herman.
To dissuade him from trying to escape, the Apaches made Herman believe they had killed his entire family. And so the young boy gradually embraced the Apache culture and way of life. He was soon adopted by a tribal warrior named Carnaviste and given the name Onda, meaning white boy.
A few months after Lehman's capture, the Apaches told Lehman they had killed his entire family, depriving him of any incentive to attempt escape. The Apaches took Herman Lehman to their village in eastern New Mexico. He was adopted by a man named Carnaviste and his wife, Laughing Eyes. A year after his capture, General Sherman passed through Loyal Valley on an inspection tour. Augusta Buckmeyer was granted a private audience with Sherman to plead for his assistance in finding her son. The Apaches called Lehman Inda, Hellboy. He spent about 6 years with them and became assimilated into their culture, raising to the position of petty chief. As a young warrior, one of his most memorable battles was a running fight with Texas Rangers on August 24, 1875, which took place near Fort Concho, about 65 miles west of the site of San Angelo, Texas. Ranger James Gillett nearly shot Lehman before he realized he was a white captive. When the Rangers tried to find Lehman later, he escaped by crawling through the grass. Around the spring of 1876, Herman Lehman killed an Apache medicine man, avenging the killing of Carnaviste, his adoptive father. Fearing revenge, he fled from the Apaches and spent a year alone in hiding.
In the spring of 1876, Herman's life was once again turned upside down when Carnaviste was killed by a medicine man from a rival tribe. The young man avenged the death of the man he now considered his father. By killing his assassin and fearing for his life, decided to flee. After a year of wandering, he finally joined a rebel Comanche tribe and was given the name Montezuma, meaning unknown. Shortly afterwards, he was once again adopted by Chief Quannaparker. The Comanche chief was himself the son of a white woman named Cynthia Ann Parker, who had also been kidnapped by a Comanche tribe at the age of 9. Quannaparker, who realized that the war against the whites was lost, finally agrees to make peace and travels with his group to Fort Sill before joining the Kiowa Comanche Reservation.
He became lonely and decided to search for a Comanche tribe that he might join. He observed the tribe all day long, entered the camp just after dark. At first they were going to kill him. However, a young warrior approached him that spoke the Apache tongue. Lehman then explained the situation, that he was born white, adopted by the Indians, and that he had left the Apaches after killing the medicine man. Another brave came forward verifying his story, and he was welcome to stay. He joined the Comanches, who gave him a new name, Montezuma, meaning unknown. In the spring of 1877, Lehman and the Comanches attacked buffalo hunters on the high plains of Texas. Lehman was wounded by the hunters in a surprise attack on the Indian camp at Yellow House Canyon, present-day Lubbock, Texas, on March 18, 1877, the last major fight between Indians and non-Indians in Texas. In July 1877, Comanche chief Quanah Parker, who had successfully negotiated the surrender of the last fighting Comanches in 1875, was sent in search of the renegades. Herman Lehman was among the group that Quanah found camped on Pecos River in eastern New Mexico. Quanah persuaded them to quit fighting and come to the Indian reservation near Fort Sill, Indian Territory, in present-day Oklahoma. While Lehman initially refused to go, he later followed at Quanah's request. Herman Lehman lived with Quanah Parker's family on the Comanche Reservation, 1877 to 1878. Several people took notice of the white boy living among the Native Americans. Lehman's mother still searched for her son. She questioned Colonel McKenzie, the commanding officer of Fort Sill, whether there were any blue-eyed boys on the reservation. He said yes. However, the description led them to believe that this was not her boy. Nevertheless, she requested that the boy be brought to her. In April 1878, Lieutenant Colonel John Davison ordered that Lehman be sent under guard to his family in Texas. 5 soldiers and a driver escorted Lehman on a 4-mule-drawn ambulance to Loyal Valley in Mason County, Texas. Lehman arrived in Loyal Valley with an escort of soldiers on May 12, 1878, almost 9 years after his capture.
Herman Lehman was soon noticed by the settlers for his white skin and blue eyes, and Colonel Mackenzie, in contact with Herman's mother, decided to send him under escort to his original family in Texas. This forced return to Anglo-Saxon civilization was not without its difficulties. He arrived in May 1878, 9 years after his capture. His sister recognized him by the scar on his arm he'd made playing together. At first speaking only Apache and Comanche, Herman was reluctant to embrace his new way of life. He refused to sleep in a bed and often managed to embarrass his family by appearing half naked and body painted in front of guests at his mother's boarding house. His brother Willie had to intervene on several occasions to prevent him from killing neighbors' calves and pigs or taking horses from neighboring farms. Gradually learning German and English and taking on occasional jobs, he was never able to reintegrate fully with the whites.
The people of Loyal Valley gathered to see the captive boy brought home. Upon his arrival, neither he nor his mother recognized one another. Lehman had long believed his family dead, for the Apache had shown him proof during his time of transition to their life. It was his big sister who found the scar on his arm, which had been caused by her when they were playing with a hatchet. His family surrounded him, welcoming him home, and the distant memories began to come back. Hearing someone repeat, Herman, he thought that sounded familiar and then realized it was his own name. At first he was sullen and wanted nothing to do with his mother and siblings. As he put it, I was an Indian and I did not like them because they were pale-faces. Lehman's readjustment to his original culture was slow and painful. He rejected food offered and was unaccustomed to sleeping in a bed. Herman Lehman's first memoir, written with the assistance of Jonathan Jones, was published in 1899 under the title A Condensed History of the Apache and the Comanche Indian Tribes for Amusement and General Knowledge. Lehman hated this book, for he felt Jones had taken liberty to fluff it up a bit. Throughout his life, Herman Lehman drifted between two very different cultures. Lehman was a very popular figure in southwestern Oklahoma and the Texas Hill Country, appearing at county fairs and rodeos.
Always cheerful, his extreme skill at archery, lassoing, and horseback riding made him a local celebrity. Herman eventually adapted to Western life, but never abandoned his native customs and values. In 1899, he wrote his own biography entitled 9 Years Among the Indians, and his book was considered one of the finest accounts of Native American culture at the time.
To thrill audiences such as he did in 1925 at the Old Settlers Reunion in Mason County, he would chase a calf around an arena, kill it with arrows, jump off his horse, cut out the calf's liver, and eat it raw. His second autobiography, 9 Years Among the Indians, 1927, was at the request of Lehman. He requested that this time the book be written just as he told it. It is one of the finest captivity narratives in American literature, according to J. Frank Dobie. Herman Lehman's story also inspired Mason County native Fred Gibson's novel, Savage Sam, a sequel to Old Yeller. On August 26, 1901, Prentice Parker provided a legal affidavit verifying Lehman's life as his adopted son, 1877 to 1878. On May 29, 1908, the United States Congress authorized the U.S. Secretary of the Interior to allot Lehman as an adopted member of the Comanche Nation.
In 1900, he left Texas for the Indian Territory in Oklahoma to be closer to his adopted people, whom he called his Red Brothers. Later regarded by the authorities as a true adopted Comanche, in 1901, he received a parcel of land from the U.S. government, which he promptly donated to a school. With his wife Fanny Light and 5 children, he finally returned to Loyal Valley, Texas, where he died on February 2, 1932 at the age of 72, becoming a legend of the American Wild West.
As an adopted member of the Comanche Nation, 160 acres of Oklahoma land was granted to him. Lehman chose a site near Granfield and moved there in 1910. He later deeded some of the property over for a school. Lehman died on February 2, 1932 in Loyal Valley, where he is buried next to his mother and stepfather in the cemetery next to the old Loyal Valley one-room schoolhouse. I hope you enjoyed the history of the White Apache and taking a short walk through the life of Herman Lehman. Have a good day, guys.